On January 22nd, 2023, the 50-year anniversary of the Roe v. Wade decision, thousands of women across the country took to the streets to march for women's reproductive rights. But this year was bigger than Roe. In June 2022, the Supreme Court released its ruling in the Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization case, which resulted in overturning the Roe v. Wade decision. That ruling triggered bans and restrictions in dozens of states, including Texas, which directly affected women's access to reproductive health care. Determined to not be silenced on the issue, Women's March organized bigger than Roe marches for women reproductive rights in all 50 states. Local organization Project Pro-Roe organized the Dallas Bigger Than Roe March, which began and ended at the JFK Memorial in downtown and was bookended by speeches from members of the organization and its partners. One goal of the Bigger Than Roe March was to show that women are not defeated and that now is the time for more people to get on board with the movement.
Actually having people hear your voice out in public and going to these marches gets the word out to more people who might not even care until they're actually bothered by hearing the people's message, and when they actually start to listen, that's when their minds actually start to change.
Freedom, yeah, and continuing to fight for other women, especially who don't have a voice of their own. And healthcare has a direct implication to mental health as well. So neither one can coexist without the other. So it's important to continue to fight for our mental health and our healthcare as well. And it's not just about women's rights, it's human healthcare in general.
People's lives. And as a woman, it just feels like we're going back in time.
And then I would just say it is such a safe space, surrounded by people that are so empowering and agree with you in the same way. Because if you don't fight for it, then nobody else will. And everyone should, even men, should fight.
Especially men. I think especially men. Because we didn't have as much of a men turnout, and sometimes I feel like they don't take the time to try to understand women's rights because they are directly correlated to men's rights as well. So it would be nice to have more of a men turnout and more men support.
Not everyone present on the day was in favor of the Bigger Than Roe demonstration. I met virtually with Sanvi Bukhara, the 16-year-old founder of Project Pro-Roe, to learn more about the initiative.
My name is Sanvi Bukhara. I am 16 years old. I currently attend school in Collin County. In terms of Project Pro-Roe, I founded Project Pro-Roe in the summer of 2022. So around the time where the Dobbs decision came out, kind of overturning the Casey and Planned Parenthood and then the Roe v. Wade, I was able to meet a lot of really cool people who were able to kind of get me involved in advocacy.
How do you address or maybe even cope with anti-protesters and demonstrators?
I guess I would say a lot of people believe in certain things, and I wouldn't say that they don't have a right to believe in certain things, just the way that I'm passionate about my beliefs. I understand that there are other people who are also just as passionate, and they don't necessarily have to be the same as mine. But in terms of counter-protesters, I think the reason that they're there is because they want to make it clear to, I wouldn't say just me, but they want to make it clear to the people that they're protesting that they don't agree. And when you refuse to acknowledge that, when you kind of show them that regardless of the fact they don't agree with you, you're still going to fight for what you believe in, it kind of makes everything that they're trying to do pointless.
So why did you choose marching and rallies as your form of really convening people? Why that method for advocacy?
Yeah. So I mean, when we kind of look at the target audience that Project Pro-Roe works with, we really work with youth. And that's primarily because when I became kind of involved with advocacy and I realized that American politics weren't the nicest thing in the world, and a lot of the things that a lot of people made decisions about could really hurt me and my family. I didn't feel like I had a lot of options or things that I could do. I didn't have $1 million and I didn't have connections with people at Congress. And I really felt like I was just someone that couldn't do anything. And that was really, I guess, heartbreaking for me because there was so much that I wanted to do and I felt like I was powerless to do it, honestly. And so that's why I turned to activism and advocacy, kind of just because public demonstrations, I've met a lot of people who think that public demonstrations and peaceful protests are ineffective. But I feel like that's honestly been the only continuity throughout history, not just in America, but anywhere. Change doesn't really happen until people kind of stand up and ask for it. And when you look at things on a smaller scale, it's difficult to see it because it's like, how is me going and meeting up with like a bunch of people in my town and yelling for something that we weren't going to do anything? But it's kind of when you see like that larger approach, when you look at it in a longer scale, when you kind of stand up for what's right and you kind of bring other people into that fight, you do help make a change. And that's why we wanted to go with like a direct action approach, as well as work with teens, because this was something that anyone could do. A lot of people just don't know how.
How do you feel about, I guess, like the lack of men that have kind of been supporting? And do you feel like men are necessary in this fight? Or is there allyship necessary?
Absolutely. Honestly, I feel like when we look at the broader idea, we can kind of look at the entire movement for feminism. And I would say that feminism benefits both men and women, and honestly, everyone, because it looks towards dismantling a system that punishes feminine traits. I guess, like, setting up that binary, like, only men can do this and only women can do this, makes it really hard for men to enter a movement where they can also advocate for respect for themselves and for the people that they love. But having allyship, having men join a fight that even if they think it doesn't affect them, but does and affects at least other people that they know and love, is really important to kind of making as big of an impact as we can. Because we're not just fighting for like a specific law or a specific right, it's really just fighting for a better world. And the more people you have in that fight, the more people you're going to be able to help.
What do you say to those who maybe thought about showing up, but were kind of on the fence about it, just ultimately decided not to, who may be maybe afraid to publicly show any support or allyship? What do you say to those who just kind of on the fence right now, but just ultimately didn't get up the courage to come out?
I would say taking that step is intimidating, but it will honestly change a lot of things, the way you think and the way you act, because I was one of those people, which is really funny because like 6 months, if I told myself 6 months from now that I would be involved with Project Pro, that I would be attending protests across Texas, I'd be helping other people organize their own protests, I wouldn't have believed it, because I also didn't think that having protests and having demonstrations would make a difference. I thought that they were a waste of time. I thought that it would be intimidating or that they were unsafe. But when I first showed up for my community and when I first kind of decided to take that step, not just for myself, but for the people that I cared about too, like in the best way possible, once you kind of enter the movement in the space, you're not going to be able to leave it because you kind of see the impact that your words and your actions have. And it's really difficult to give up like that amount of kind of ability that you have to make a difference. People who are on the fence, I understand the apprehension and I know it's a scary space to get involved with, but a lot of people who are now in the space also thought that, and now they're able to make a really big difference for the people they love and care about, and that could be them as well. So I would honestly say just taking that jump, taking that risk, it will pay off. It's definitely something that will change their lives.
Brick by brick, wall by wall, we will make the